Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Stillwater. Our service today will be led by Reverend Susan Ross. We have musicians, Annye Love, and the UU Singers, and that today is Mike McMullen, Linda Smolen, Lynn Feazle, Kathryn Ross, and Doug Williams. We have a story by Susan Ross also, and I believe that's it for the moment. And we'll start with announcements.
After the service, please join us in the social room for refreshments and conversation. A big thank you to Donna Sinnis, Susan Ross, Jessica Weatherby, Maya Owens, and Daniel Lee and Evie Bell for joining me yesterday in picking up trash in Stillwater's annual trash off. Our group protected our watershed by collecting 12 big bags full of trash. And considering we worked less time than usual due to the No Kings rally, that's a lot of trash. And we weren't at Boomer Lake. We were at somewhere different. So that was kind of fun. We were kind of around Taco Bell. That would be the best way to describe it. So if you go by Taco Bell and notice how ridiculously clean it seems there, we did that. Speaking of the No Kings rally, people from our church played important roles. Please stand up if you were involved in organizing, speaking, peopling information tables, marching, hang on, we're not ready yet. Marching, holding signs, making good trouble. Yeah, everybody. Love that. March is Pledge Month, and this is the last Sunday in March. Yay! You will find pledge forms on the table at the entrance to the social room. The top part of the form goes in the red slotted lockbox. The bottom part is for you to keep for your records. For those new or relatively new to our church, Susan Bullard and Mark Christian will be holding a newcomer orientation session at 6 p.m. tomorrow, Monday, March 30th. Pizza will be provided, so they need to know how many to plan for. If you would not mind, sign up on the sheet in the social room or register on CH meetings, if you haven't already. The Thursday evening Spirit of Life sessions are from 7 to 9 and will run through April 16th. Each session addresses different lines of the hymn we sing each week. The sessions do not build one on the other, so people can join the program at any time. You can register on CH meetings, and you can get more information from Susan Bullard and Linda Smolen. For those who brought their Easter eggs today, if you had your name on the sign-up sheet, please let me know so I can mark you off. And we are collecting those eggs in the library. Next Sunday, the potluck brunch will be from 9:30 to 10:15. The Sunday service will start at 10:30 as usual. The flower communion will be during the service, and the egg hunt will be after the service. So next Sunday, bring a flower for the flower communion, a brunch item to share, and a basket for each child hunting eggs. And mindful meditation will not meet next Sunday. Next Sunday's sermon will be provided by Reverend Donna Compton. Her sermon title is A Time of Renewal. As she explained, the spring solstice and Easter bring us many symbols of renewal and rebirth. Is the dominant cultural understanding of the season helpful, or does it obscure things of importance? Let's talk. Next Sunday is the first Sunday in April, so it is technically committee meeting Sunday, though I have no idea how Easter is going to affect that. The Budget Committee has sent emails to each standing committee that has a budget, and they've requested their proposed budget for next fiscal year no later than 5 p.m. next Sunday, April 5th. If any standing committee chair or co-chair did not receive that email, see me after the service today. And if you don't respond by 5 p.m. next Sunday, you'll just get what you got last year. So that's not a threat, that's just a convenience. April's forum will be Sunday, April 12th at 12:30. Sabash Kak will be looking at science is facing a crisis. It cannot explain consciousness. The talk will provide an accessible summary of the Vedic approach to consciousness and tie it up with yoga and Vedanta, both of which are universal approaches to self-knowledge. If you have an announcement, please come up and use a microphone.
Hi, I'm Lynn. This Tuesday at the Stillwater Community Center at 6 o'clock, the League of Women Voters is sponsoring a civic conversations, and this is going to be on issues about Iran. We have 3 speakers, including an Iranian person, who are going to be talking about the situation in Iran. So if you're interested in finding out more and participating in civic conversation, please come to the Community Center. It's room 121, which is in the main lobby, right off the main lobby. It's a big room there on the southeast corner of the building. So.
I want to remind everybody about music on Wednesday nights, music practice. So if you want to have music at church, come and join us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Breenan, and it is almost time for the Stillwater Arts Festival, which happens on the 17th and 18th of April. In the past, you all have been incredibly generous in helping me to provide hospitality for these artists, many of which are coming from far away, and it's actually just become kind of our signature here in Stillwater to provide really excellent meals and really take care of these artists who bring so much to our community. So I am going to, hopefully, Terry, send out a sign-up genius requesting items that you, like, no pressure, but it's a lot for me to do by myself, and I've really, really, really appreciated your help in the past.
Other announcements? Okay, I'm going to put on a different hat. Why I support this church. Oh, hello. I wasn't raised in a church. In my teens and 20s, though, I experienced enough of Baptist and similar types of churches to know, even though the people were lovely, I found the doctrines questionable, the politics in the sermons unwelcome, and the expectation that everyone agreed just plain nuts. My husband was raised in the Church of Christ, but had turned his back on it by the time I met him in our early 20s. So why, after over a decade of avoiding churches, did I seek out this one? Well, we had our first child. My husband's mom persuaded him that a child needs to be raised in a church. I did not agree, but he wore me down. So in 1995, I researched local churches and found that the values presented by the Unitarian Universalist Association aligned pretty well with my own. Since then, my 31 years in the children's program downstairs have brought me joy, purpose, creative expression, and relationships I would hate to have missed. I've also served as a trustee on the board, worked on a ministerial search committee, and presented countless stories for all ages upstairs. My role at the pulpit began with the confluence of two events. I again became a member of the board, serving as clerk when Johnny Weatherford became president, and the children's program was suspended due to COVID-19. When Johnny was recovering from an injury and not able to serve at the pulpit as the president traditionally does, he asked if I would fill in for him, which I was happy to do. Would you quit that? I see it happen to other people. I had not had that problem myself. I'm still involved in that, along with doing other tasks I feel are essential to the functioning of the church. As Reverend Susan Ross said in the newsletter after a church cleanup day 2 years ago, she goes, whoa, working together strengthens our sense of community and reminds us of the ways we are connected. I've experienced that here. But I also pledge my financial support. It's important to me that the building and grounds are clean, safe, well-functioning, and attractive. I'm grateful to Rebecca Breenan, Susan Danielewicz, and John Little for identifying and prioritizing issues that have needed doing for a long time. Our Sunday morning speakers and the minister who serves our pastoral care needs deserve to be fully and fairly compensated. The cost of our building insurance has skyrocketed. And of course, the utilities have to be paid. All these things require a lot of money, year after year, so I try to do my part. Since its founding 79 years ago, this church evolved into the tangible legacy that was here for me to find in 1995 when I was seeking a church that made sense to me. Now I get to nurture that legacy, to see that a UU church is a beacon in Stillwater 79 years from now, when someone I will never meet seeks a church that makes sense to them. That's why I support this church.
Thank you so much, Terry. Terry's the last of our testimonials, and definitely a wonderful final testimony. And now the little thing that she's been teasing you with. Oh. How do I get to it now?
Oh, good
Backward
job.
or forward?
Good job. That's so cool.
Oh, here it is, finally. There's one thing really amazing about this. Our goal of $80,000 is so very close. We are just about there. This is very heartening, and it really shows that people really care about this church. We're not quite at the end of our pledge period. That doesn't end until March 31st, and April 1st would be the end, so you still can contribute. And going beyond the goal is not a bad thing by any means. There are many things we have not done because they're too expensive or because we thought they were too expensive. We can consider some of those now. The committees it was mentioned that early on the committees should get their budgets in. Well, they really should, because committees can do work and can spend money if they need to. And if they have ideas, committee people have ideas, the board wants to hear them and the board is ready to support them. Committees will have budgets. They did this past year, but they were very small. Some of them will increase. So, thank you so much. We will be celebrating at lunch today. We have a big cake. Should be lots of cake for everybody. And thank you very much. Make sure I haven't missed anything. Good, thank you. Time for to start. Prelude.
Why did everybody march yesterday? Why did everybody march yesterday? Come on, Mike. Come on, Doug. Come on. Why did everybody march yesterday? Was there a reason? There was, wasn't there? What was the reason we marched yesterday? Anybody? Freedom. Democracy, and we were resisting some things, weren't we? We were protesting no kings, right? We were protesting. So we are going to be singing a song from the Minnesota singing resistance people that have been going out in the streets, in the capitals, and not only in Minnesota, but also through Wisconsin, Chicago, New York. There is a singing resistance movement that is happening, and we are going to be singing two of those songs for you today. We invite you to join in because they're very short and repetitive, and you'll get onto it. So our first one is called Hold On. So it goes slow and it's heartful, and we invite you to join in as soon as you're ready.
We're doing the other one.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're doing the other one first. I apologize. We're singing everyone, oh everyone of these people are ours. Okay, so yeah. That's good. Okay. Everyone, oh everyone, oh everyone of these people are ours, just like we are theirs. We belong to them as they belong to us. We belong to them as they belong to us. We belong to them as they belong to us. We belong to them as they belong to us. Let's do it, everyone. Oh everyone of these people are ours, just like we are theirs. Everyone, oh everyone of these people are ours, just like we are theirs. Everyone of these people are ours, just like we are theirs. Together. Everyone, oh everyone of these people are ours, just like we are theirs. We belong to them as we belong to us. We belong to them as they belong to us. Everyone, oh everyone of these people are ours, just like we are
We light our chalice candle this morning to remind us of the light that lives always inside of each of us, of the light that is among us when we gather together, the light that we share, and the light that always waits for us and is at work out in the world. I invite you this morning to take a moment to reflect silently on what protest means to you. What's your history with that word? What do you think it means? What do you think its purpose is? Just a moment of silent reflection. Our opening hymn this morning is number 159, This Is My Song. Will you stand as you are able and join in singing? Okay, so our story this morning is not as much a story as it is a book review, kind of. But also there's some story that goes along with it, and it has to do with children marching. And the reason for that is twofold. One is because of what happened yesterday that we've already talked about, and then the second is something that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the service. So I want to tell you about some books, children's books. One of them is called Sometimes People March. It was written by Tessa Allen, and it's a book that has on the front of the cover a picture of ants, because ants march. And one of the lines in the book is, sometimes ants march, sometimes bands march, sometimes people march. And then it talks about how people march to stand up for freedom, to stand against injustice, to support people they love, or to work to make a stand for change to happen. So that's one of the books. Another book is called Let the Children March by Monica Clark Robinson. And it is a book, it is one of two books that I want to talk to you about a little bit that have to do with the Children's March in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963, sometimes called the Children's Crusade. It happened, the first book, Let the Children March, is actually a story, sort of a fictional story, but a historical fiction about a girl a little girl who participated in that march, and she tells her story. The other book, which is called We've Got a Job, is actually a book of interviews of some of the children who were part of that march, only interviewed now as adults, and what their experience was. So what happened is that at the beginning of May in 1963, the people of Birmingham, led of course by Martin Luther King Jr. and a number of other hardworking leaders, leaders with vision, wanted to demonstrate for civil rights. But some of the adults who gathered to talk about that were concerned about losing their jobs if they took off work to march in the streets of Birmingham. So the children, some of the children who were present at that discussion, volunteered to take their place. So that's what it refers to when it says, we've got a job. That was their job, they said, to take off from school and go and do this demonstrating. They're called children. Many of them were teenagers. The youngest of the kids that participated, I think, was 9. So there were some younger elementary students doing that, as well as the middle school and high school students. And so they had a D-Day. D-Day was actually May the 2nd, and D-Day, that stood for Ditch Day, Ditch School Day. And so that was the day they went to the church, to the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, and the organizers, the adults who were helping them, got them in groups of 50, and they would go out from the church 50 at a time, walking 2 by 2. That would come out unevenly, so somebody must have been 3 in there somewhere, but they were demonstrating, and of course the police in Birmingham were famous for their response to that, and they started out just arresting kids and putting them in jail, and they did that, even the little 9-year-old kids. But then as the days went on and more kids showed up, because each day as some kids ended up in jail, more kids would decide to ditch school and come join the protests. And so the response got worse, got more violent. Bull Connor sent out the fire hose brigade, and they would start with a fairly strong pressured burst of water, and then they would increase it. So at first the kids could stand up to it by actually sitting down on the pavement and turning their backs, so the water was hitting them in the back. But then when it got stronger, it was actually washing them down the street. It was that strong. And then when that wasn't enough to stop 50 more and then 50 more from coming out of the church, he went to the canine dogs and set the dogs on them, the dogs attacking them. Well, the newspaper people, the media had not been that interested in publicizing the civil rights movement until then. And then when there was the opportunity to photograph these children being washed down the street by the fire hoses and attacked by the dogs and thrown in jail, the media took hold of it. And so those pictures and those stories went out all over. Maybe some of you remember that. I was actually an 8th grade student at the end of my 8th grade year at that time. So I knew a little bit about it, but have since, of course, found out more. And that went on until by the time that they were ready to finally try to negotiate about it, when the white people in power calmed down a little bit with some help from politicians in D.C. who were not happy with the images going out to all the people in the country and the flack they were getting about that. By that time, there were something like 27 kids in jail. Some of the jail got full, and so they incarcerated them at the fairgrounds and then one other place that they used in town because they kept running out of room. And that sort of resolved itself. More adults got involved, and the result of that, I started to say end result, but it wasn't, of course, the end result. I'm not sure there is yet an end result, was the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which came directly out of people's response, not soon enough, but directly under Lyndon Johnson to that. So that's just a little bit about children marching and how important that can be and how inspiring to the rest of us.
We have a responsive reading in the order of service. Spirit of justice, you who always choose the side of those whose lives are surrounded by violence. May our motivations align with yours. May our actions reflect your desire for us. May our sorrows be for good. May our rejoicings be for rejoicing. May our convictions be not be shamed into silence. May our needs be understood, not decenter those for whom we fight. May the ongoing silence of others not draw us into complacency. And may our struggles find solidarity with others. May our anger not turn into retribution. May our disappointment not turn into dismissal. May our losses not dwell too long in despair. And may our happy star of possibility be steadfast. When we choose activism, may it be nourished by unimaginable hope. When we choose defiance and disobedience, beckon us towards peace. May our co-conspirators and accomplices be a source of joy. And may our movement through the world always be guided by love. May our righteous indignation hold strong. May we stay true to the communities that matter to us. You see us, you hear us, you hold all of us. Reverend Bruce Reyes Chow. It's time now for the offertory. We're still in March. And we're sharing a portion of our plate today with Habitat for Humanity.
Some sage today and prayer in a form of Native American prayer. Is anybody allergic to sage? Allergic to what? Sage. Okay.
Those of you who were at the No King's March yesterday have heard a little piece of this, not the whole thing, but when we get to that little piece, feel free to thumb through your hymn book or close your eyes and meditate or whatever you need to at that point. In many Christian churches today, this day is observed as Palm Sunday, the day of remembering, the day of sometimes reenacting the story of people waving palm branches as Jesus enters the city of Jerusalem. It's a celebratory event when churches do that, usually involving children, which is interesting since children aren't mentioned in any of the versions of this story that are in the Gospels in the New Testament. Since it is most likely happening, what the story relates during the Passover festival, there would have been lots of families who were in Jerusalem for that celebration, and so there were likely children around, but none of the stories say that these children waved any branches, only that people waved branches. So I'm guessing that the reason that the palm branches get given to children to wave on Palm Sunday came about because the adults just felt foolish waving a palm branch around. Also, the version of the story that is in John's Gospel, which was the last version to be written, is the only version that specifically says palm branches were being waved. The others just say tree branches. Now, there would have been palm trees in Jerusalem in those days, so maybe some of the branches were palm branches, but probably not all of the branches were palm branches. In spite of that, maybe because palm branches somehow seem exotic to people, in many churches today, the children will march in waving palm branches that they've been handed by the supervising adults, while the congregation sings a hymn or the choir sings a hymn, often one that begins like this. All glory, laud, and honor to thee, Redeemer, King, to whom the lips of children made sweet hosannas ring. So maybe that's the reason children get to wave the palm branches, because the hymn says that they do, or actually it doesn't say they wave, it says they shout Hosanna. That hymn was written in the 1800s, so maybe it's had an influence on what goes on. It's actually the translation of a much older Latin hymn that might say something about children. It's a little hard to tell. Anyway, whatever happens, it's a joyful time in these congregations that do this. And that fact, that joyfulness, has given rise to a warning that I often heard during my years of serving churches. It's a travesty, people said, to just go from the joyful hosannas on Palm Sunday to the joyful hallelujahs on Easter without allowing ourselves to experience the tension and the violence and the suffering and the sorrow that are so present in the part of the story that happens in between those two joyful times. That's why some churches now have begun to call today not just Palm Sunday, but Palm Passion Sunday, to encourage the remembering and encourage the telling of the whole story. And in recognition that a lot of folks are not likely to come to any services that might be held during the week in between, like a Holy Thursday service maybe to serve communion, or a Good Friday service that ends in darkness. I'm all for all of that, and when I pastored United Methodist Churches, we did all of that. We had a Palm Passion Sunday where we paraded with palms, both adults and children, and then we came back and read the Passion story, And then we had a Holy Thursday service of foot washing and communion, and then a Good Friday service that ended in darkness. But the thing is, if we really listen to that story about the entry into Jerusalem, then we probably don't need so much of a warning about too much celebrating. If we really, truly listen to it, I think we can see that this story isn't just about some ticker tape parade heralding Jesus as a hero. Put in context, it's much more than that. Because if this is happening at the beginning of the Passover festival, then what is very likely taking place on the other side of Jerusalem, maybe even at the very same time that Jesus is entering, is another kind of parade, a parade of military power and the power of the empire. Pilate, who is the governor of this area and is one of the underlings of the Roman emperor, is coming with his entourage in order to make sure that things stay peaceful in the city of Jerusalem while this festival is going on, because, after all, Passover is a celebration of freedom from empire. It's a remembering of and celebrating Moses leading the people out of Egypt, out from under the thumb of the Pharaoh. So this later empire, the Roman Empire, and its representatives are more than a little nervous about these crowds and what they might be up to. But they try not to show that. They ride in on their horses, and they're accompanied by marching soldiers with their helmets on and their swords hanging by their sides, and by people carrying big banners declaring the majesty of the emperor and all the victories that he has won. And there's lots of gold that gleams in the sunlight. It probably looks a little bit like the Oval Office right now. And the crowd that is watching all of this is mostly silent. Some of them are silent in awe, and some of them are silent in resentment. And then one of the governor's people starts to call out every once in a while, "Hail to the one who comes in the name of the Lord," because Pilate is a representative of Caesar, and Caesar is believed to be divine. And so he is called Lord as well as king, as well as emperor. Meanwhile, the other side of town, this other procession enters, and it is not at all the same. In this procession, there's only one person riding, and he's riding a young donkey borrowed from a local farmer, a small and humble animal, small enough that the rider's feet probably almost drag the ground as he's sitting on it. So he looks a little bit comical. And in fact, some of his friends have draped their coats over the back of the donkey to give him a sort of saddle, but also probably to raise him up a little bit so his feet don't have to touch the ground. An interesting aside to all of that is that in Matthew's version of this story, and I don't know, you might remember that Matthew's gospel is written for a traditional Jewish audience, and so he is very concerned that he make lots of references to the Hebrew scriptures that his Jewish friends would be familiar with. And he is thinking of this passage in the book of Zechariah where it says, "Behold, your king is coming to you, riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." Well, that's parallelism in poetry, right? You repeat the same thing, only you say it in a little bit different words the second time. So a donkey, a foal, the colt of a donkey, it means the same thing, It's just elaborating. Well, Matthew thinks it means two animals. So in Matthew's version of the story, there's a donkey and a foal of a donkey. And I don't know whether he was picturing Jesus doing some kind of rodeo trick and riding two animals at the same time. He doesn't explain it, but it's just kind of interesting that that's why, of all the Gospels, Matthew's the only one that needs two animals there. So anyway, others of the friends who were there at this entrance, the smaller entrance, lay their coats down on the ground and also some tree branches. So they make a kind of carpet for him to ride in on. And someone calls out there, "Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord," and others take up the chant, probably knowing that this is also what is being shouted across town, but also knowing that in this setting it means something entirely different. This rider's not a king, this rider's not a conqueror, this rider's a storyteller, a healer. He's one who stands beside, he's one who includes the excluded. So if we really listen to it, this story is clearly a story about a protest, about a planned, intentional, symbolic act to say to anyone who is watching, anyone who is listening, that there is a different kind of power, a stronger, deeper kind of power, an indestructible kind of power. Because as the rest of the story testifies, you can't kill love. A few years ago, a friend of mine posted a graphic on social media about this time of year that showed 3 hands holding up palm branches, except the hands aren't just hands, they're fists held up in protest and in determination. Another friend about that same time shared with me these words to a song by Mark Miller. Actually, Mark Miller calls it a prayer chant, a song that my friend said should be the anthem of those who choose in this time when abusive power and hatred and violence seem to hold sway in our world, to walk another path, to live another way. These are those words. We resist. We refuse to let hatred in. We rise up. We won't back down. We're in this till the end. Pray for your enemies. Welcome the stranger. Show love to your neighbor. We're in this till the end. Amen. Blessed be. Our closing hymn today is number 121, We'll Build a Land. Will you stand as you're able and join in singing? May we build a land together. May we do that by protest and by marching and by loving. Amen.
That concludes the recorded portion of our service. We continue with trail markers. You're invited to come forward.